Okay, we got our presentation session coming on here. You don't have any deals you'd like to present for sale, or tell us what you're looking for, maybe success stories.
I got a little bit of everything for you. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Asa Presley. We'll start with success story. Last month I presented with 4 deals. 3 are under contract to be sold this month. All right. So just glad that happened. And thanks to anybody and everybody that I work with in here to kind of make that happen. Calling Harold while he at work, trying to take care of patients and stuff. Like, hey man, how you do this? But I do have one of the properties that I mentioned last month in Camden. We do have this available. Well, that's hard. Okay. It is 1,751 square feet, craftsman style home. It does need about 40K in rehab. One of the big things about the home that's kind of special about it, the master bedroom is so big it does have a fireplace in it. The other bedroom is large as well. So we're talking about back in the day when they had 2 bedrooms and 3-4 families could live in that house. It is a one bath, but if somebody experienced or had the connections, wanted to come do a full rehab, you can pretty much shrink that foyer down to make a 3rd bedroom right as soon as you walk in the door if you wanted that. Let's see here. To show some of the ugly of the house, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the pretty ugly that we like as investors. That's the master bedroom, and I have better. Once if you email me or would like to see more photos, I can just send these photos over to you even while we're here. But this is the foyer that I mentioned. Just kind of is very large, but a house right around the corner on Fair Street, which is 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Somebody came and rehabbed it, didn't do anything extreme to it in a sense, left it as is, and it's actually 1,500 square feet, about 200 square feet less. They have it listed for 139. I talked with the realtor, they're really trying to get around 127 for it, so it's some potential there. Comps are hard to find in the area just because it is part of a newer revitalization area. It's older Camden near Boykin Park, if anybody's familiar with that. So as soon as you get into Camden, it's like it's where the more affluent families lived back in the day, and they're trying to bring it back right behind this home on Campbell Street. It's a builder who's bought 4 lots, but he has 1 house up already, about 1,300 square feet. So he's just kind of prepping for the revitalization that's happening in the area. I'll be glad to show anybody the house, but we're asking $48,000 for it from a wholesale. If you're interested in wanting to rehab it, I'm glad to talk about that as well. I would like to take on a partner with that. If any questions, but be sure to let me know. Another thing, I'm working a lead, and it's on some land, about 17 acres near Wood Creek Farms in Elgin. If anybody wants to partner on that, I just want to work with somebody who may be experienced with land, at least how to move it. I got done a lot of research and working with the seller. I know what to do next, but I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna move 17 acres of land. It has 3 houses on it. 1 is not habitable at all, so that is a tear down. The other 2 are aunts and grandmas, so they're definitely they're living in those properties now. But the family's looking to move because that part of Richland County is about to be annexed, and they don't want to pay city and county taxes. All right. I hope this is not a legal thing, but words on the street is that they're looking to put a middle school in the area. If anybody know what Wood Creek Farm is in Green Hill Parish, we're talking $500,000 homes. So if you know any developers, anybody interested in pursuing anything, just reach out to me. We can easily work that lead. I have a great relationship with the guy, so I'm all ears.
Has the land been burnt?
Not as of yet. Not as of yet. So one tract is 6 acres, and then the remaining 11 is divided between 2 homes. but not yet as of yet though. All right, any questions? All right.
Okay, does anyone else have any deals they'd like to sell here, or what? Of course, Frank. Man, always has some deals.
All right, good evening, everyone. So, the same, much like Ace, I actually presented actually a package last month I was here. If anybody's looking for a deal in Chapin, we actually spoke with the owners, and I'm able to actually sell those separately as well. So I have a double wide. So basically, the whole lot is 1.5 acres, but they split it between 2 properties. So one property has an acre and a quarter. It has a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, about 900 square feet, new roof, new AC with ductwork, but the house does need some work. And then the other house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot double wide on 1/3 of an acre. So I think it's 0.35 acres is the actual acreage on the sides of the lot. We're asking $50 apiece for either one of those, which is definitely a large reduction from our original price. So right now, the 2-1 will probably cash flow you about $900 a month for rental property, and the 3-2 will probably go for between $1,100 and $1,200. So all in on the double wide, everybody knows Eddie Sabina. He walked through the double wide and the house, so he's already given me a repair quote because I was actually going to look to flip it myself. The repair on the double wide is probably about 15 to 20 grand. So you'll be all in at between 70 to 75 for a 1,200 cash flowing property. It's really good. And on the house, if you were to flip the house, it would need about 50 in terms of repair. Of course, if you're looking at just to make it market ready for a rental, you're probably looking at 30 or 40. With that case, you'll be all in at 30. You'll be all in at 70 or 80, and still your property value, because the house has a 875 square foot workshop as well on that 1.2 acres. You talk about downtown Chapin, which is, it's half a mile from Chapin High, maybe 3 blocks from the Publix in downtown Chapin. So you're talking about a perfect area right off of Peak Street. So if y'all have any questions, need to see any additional pictures, I most likely will have the house available to be seen Saturday, probably between 1 and 2, somewhere around there. So if this is something that you're looking for, come see us, because we're definitely looking to close as quickly as possible. And I wanted to make you aware, I did just get a contract closed, but I have not actually have any pictures yet. I got a duplex in Shandon that I'm working on. It's 2,357 square feet. It's 5 bedrooms, 2 baths. I split as a 3-1, 2-1. Right now, the owner said he was able to rent it out for $1,850. If you guys are interested in that, most people know my email address. I'm gonna put my card up there. If it's something you're interested in, send me your information, and when I get done walking through the house tomorrow, I'll have pictures and everything, and an asking price for that. Can't see that? Just in case if y'all don't know it, my email address is crandon@monopolyllc.biz, and my phone number is 803-216-1608. 1608.
Can you spell the email?
Sure, it's CRANDON at, then it's the word Monopoly, LLC.biz. B-I-Z. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Brandon.
Oh, you want to go first? Okay. Hello, my name is Bree. Is it invisible? There we go. Alright. I have a property, 19 Downing Street, Columbia 29209. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,025 square feet. I might already have a buyer, but it's still available. $77,000, contract for sale. It does need some work, a little bit of work. Not too much. The roof and HVAC are pretty good. Foundation. It's a brick on the front, but vinyl on the side. But if anyone's interested, it's more for a rental, buy and hold, or maybe even Airbnb. It's in a good area. But if anyone's interested, just hit me up. My cell phone is 803-792-1161. And my name is Brianna Davey. And I have a card. And some flyers if y'all want to take it. There you go. I'll leave this. I'll leave the flyers up here if anybody's interested.
Brian, you can put a flyer under there.
You said what?
The idea of the camera so you can put the flyer in there.
It keeps on erasing, Bob. It keeps on freezing up. There we go. Going invisible.
Good evening. I just wanted to let everyone know that Stacy said she's sorry that she couldn't be with us today. She's traveling to her family reunion. We have several rental coming soon available in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Single family, multifamily, commercials, potential student housing. And also if there's any serious cash buyers that are interested, please contact me or Stacy. I'll be in the back. If you need me at the end, get my number. We will notify you first, those persons who contact me and Stacy and say that you're interested. We'll notify you first. And when things are finalized, that's when we'll present everything to you. Thank you. Valerie Bartley, I'm sorry.
Valerie, you have a business card?
I have some. Excuse me, dear.
Okay, Val, could you give everyone your phone number?
Okay. My phone number, Valerie Bartley, is 803-878-2116. Stacy Pinckney's number is 803-730-0270. I think it's 2020. I just marked it in. My number again is 803-878-2116. And Stacy's 730-0220. That's what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, is there anyone else who has a deal they'd like to present for sale or something?
How's everybody doing? Sean Edwards. This is my business partner, Mark. Some of you I know here from the cable company. So right now I have, I'm actually going to push 2 offers tomorrow. One in Johnston, South Carolina, one in Hampton, South Carolina. Both are 5-bedroom, 3 bathrooms. We're looking right now anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000. It's going to be based on the repair value, where we'll nail it down. One of the properties, one of the houses is 2,000 square feet. And he also built an extra, what would have been a shed, but it ended up being a separate house. So it has its own power, has its own well. Both houses work off of separate wells. Going to get that signed tomorrow. Again, I'm Sean. I'm with Straight and Narrow Properties LLC. Put my card here. And phone number is 803.
Sean, you can bend that down if you want.
Can everybody see it now? Just kidding. Phone number is 803-281-2161, and it rings to either my phone or Mark's phone. We look forward to working with everyone here, and it was a pleasure. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, is there anyone else with a deal they'd like to present for sale or tell us what you're looking for, or maybe a success story?
I do.
Come on, Jimmy.
Thinking all the above. I'm JD Hollifield. I don't have to work on my last name unless you want to find me on Facebook, because I'm not on there as JD. Hang on. I have another phone number I don't think I've shared. I can tell you about the closing attorney that I use. His name's Rich Bolin. I'm just kidding. I do use Rich. He is great. This guy, can you see that? There's the random Yeah. Is that better? Anyway, he owns Gold Guard. I don't think I've told you guys about him yet. I could be losing track because I don't keep like a tally or anything. But he owns Gold Guard Pest Control, and he does stuff for agents and real estate investors, much cheaper than the standard pest control guys. He is by the book, so he's not going to be like, hey, I know there's termites in this place, but you give me a CO 100? No, he gets fined like crazy for doing that. So he doesn't do that. They go away again? You guys got to be quicker. I don't know how to change my screen timeout. But he's a really, really good guy. That picture of him is actually like his MySpace profile pic. We've known each other for a while, and at some point I downloaded some program that took everybody's MySpace pictures and added them to my contacts. So now, years and years later, I have their MySpace pics. So that's him in like high school. He doesn't look like that at all. Now he's got a kid and a wife and all this other good stuff. But they are absolutely wonderful, and he does all sorts of special stuff for investors. So he's a really good guy to know. We buy houses, of course, with any issues, and usually we put them under bond with him. It doesn't cost me a whole bunch. I try not to tell you guys the exact prices I pay for things just in case it's like a friend discount on top of a real estate investor discount. But it's only a few $100s instead of like $1,000 or whatever if you just call somebody in the phone book. So, and then he'll spray for termites and stuff like that too. I usually get him like, hey, since you're here anyway for the bond, you want to go ahead and squirt some juice around the house just to make sure there's no roaches? If there's going to be roaches in my vacant houses, I would like them to be dead roaches, please. So anyway, he's a good dude. But we do buy houses for flip, generally speaking. We buy houses not for flip as well. We also wholesale houses. We do have some. They're on the Midlands REIA Money Mastermind page on there. I would go into more detail, but Daryl that has the pictures and all that isn't here, so I won't waste your time with it. We do have one in Yacht Cove. It's not like the most amazing investor deal, but it's a really good deal if you know anybody that's looking to buy retail, if there's any agents in here. It's an off-market property in Yacht Cove, and I don't know if you know where Yacht Cove is. It's on Lake Murray, and their regime fees are decently high. I think they're $230 a month, but, which I thought was outrageous, to be straight up with you guys, but it covers the entire outside of the dwelling. So if you're a landlord and you already do the math as far as like, okay, well, the outside, the siding, you got all this stuff, the roof, these are pretty important, the yard, that's all covered by the HOA. And then you can buy a boat slip for like 30 bucks a month, which I think is cool, even though I don't have a boat. So then you gotta buy a boat, which is another like $250 a month to buy a boat. Anyway, it gets really expensive, but living on the lake, it's gonna cost you money. So we do have that, and we have a house out in Hopkins as well, but you'll see that on the REIA Money Mastermind page. So my phone number is 803-727-8998, or Party 98 if you spell it out, right? Makes it memorable. Anywho, sorry, I have a friend that did that to his, and his was not favorable when he spelled it out. I was like, oh, you should tell everybody that. He's like, I'm not telling a soul. I'm like, I'm going to tell everybody that your phone number is gay till 9. Not as cool as Party 98. But we generally buy, for our flips, our houses that we're looking for are 3-2s, pretty much anywhere within 30 minutes of Columbia. We will buy like crack houses and stuff like that as well, so like if you have them, you may as well send them. But I really don't like stuff outside of 30 minutes of Columbia, because I get bored of driving after like 30 minutes.
Give us your number again, please.
803-727-8998. Which I think I have like the if lost. No, I don't. I guess if you steal my phone, you don't know how to call it. Wait, wouldn't that be weird if somebody stole your phone and it says if lost, call, and then the phone number that you can't call yourself if they have your phone? Anyway, sorry. Everybody good? Everybody write down everything? You good? All right, thank you guys.
Okay, is there anyone else with a property they'd like to present for sale, or maybe tell us what you're looking for, or give us a success story?
I have some.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how good this is going to come up. I'm working with a laptop. That didn't turn on.
We probably got to put the screen down.
The screen tilt that?
Thanks, Sean.
Left turn.
Where's my from?
I won't.
If you turn the whole thing and then you face it forward, then it
Like this.
There we go.
Some action. Well, it don't look like y'all gonna be able to see it well anyway, though. But I mean, you can go look it up. I do want to inform you, it's not a wholesale deal. It is a listing on the market right now, but it's a townhouse in 127 Lionsgate. It's available for sale, 85,000, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, plus a large bonus room. Now, it's just didn't qualify for FHA eligibility, so I need a cash buy, conventional loan. Just wanted to bring that out there. But it's great for a written hold because it's averaging up to 1,100 to 1,300 in written in the area. So it is a good buy and hold, but it's not a flip or anything. I just wanted to bring it to y'all attention. I guess I can use this to show my card, at least for my information.
you gotta go under.
It's under?
Yeah.
Okay. So who's in with my laptop?
Then you can just set it on the table.
I got something going here.
There you go.
All right.
Set it on the table.
Yeah, lay it on the
so-
table. Maybe we'll see.
Try to go from the table. You can put the legs
To the
down
left.
too.
Okay, so yeah, that's my email and phone number. So I mean, it's great first time home buyer, military, or somebody with 85, you know, so it's pretty much what I had to offer. And I have a buyer in town he's looking for pretty much anything. So I mean, if you have any offers, I wasn't here for the whole presentation. I need your card. He's leaving Friday. He travels and invests, but he's out here until Friday. So if you have anything, I'd like your card or any information.
Excuse me, could you tell us what your name is?
I'm sorry. My name is Therese Simmons, T-E-R-A-Z, Therese. Yes, and my phone number is 843-489-5855. And you can email me at agent, first and last name, Therese Simmons, @gmail.com. Yeah, I have a call.
Are you an agent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Therese. Is there anyone else with a deal that'd like to come on up? I'm sorry, Dean Louise. Come on up, John.
How everybody's doing? For the people that don't know me, I am Johnny Be Good. Right now, I got my first deal July 3rd. But right now, because that deal, now I got so many buyers, I got a buyer that need 3 houses. So I need houses, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Colombia. I need it like yesterday. I mean, this lady calling me every day. Do you got one? Do you got something? Do you got something? So anybody that got a house, please make sure to get in touch with me because we can JV, and I got a buyer for that. Also in Greenville, I need 2 houses, but this is for rental. I got a family member. They want to go in and invest, and they saw what I did. They said, "Oh, you can do that with." Now they want to put their money. You know, nobody wanted to believe me. Now that I got proved, now everybody wants to put it in. So now I got all kind of stuff and all that. July 20, I'm going to New York. I got family member there. Now they also want to invest too. So I'm going to meet up with them. And so if anybody got family in New York or got any houses, let me know because I'm going to go over there, put my sign and do all that stuff in New York too. So please let me know. By the way, if you go to my Facebook, you probably want to see this because I'm promoting my new dance. It's Shake a Leg. So, but I'm still investing. So. Put that right there. Put it right there.
He's still dancing.
I'm still dancing, and you two can dance all the way to the bank. So, you know, a lot of people when they came to my Facebook, they said they thought it was fake and everything. because I put a video with the house and everything, but I find a buyer, and then I put my check, and now everybody, oh, congratulations. Now I circulate all the way to the bank. So make sure you get in touch with me if you got a house. So thank you very much. Johnny B. Do. Oh, my number, 803-422-7588. 803-422-7588. I don't have my real estate card. I only got my company, entertainment company, Money Juice Entertainment, but you can see the number there, 422, and that's not my wife, that's just a model. Oh, my wife looked like that, so it's good. So thank you very
Can I shout something out real quick? I don't want to bother y'all with that, but anybody who know any investors in gas stations or selling a gas station, you can also contact me and get my information as well, any commercial investors.
Keep going down.
There it is. Yes, you
Rainbow,
mentioned.
GPOC. There you go. So this, there you go. So I have a double wide on 2.9 acres. The address is 365 Rainbow Road. My name's Sally. Ryan G. Louise Green is my phone number, my email, and my website. I don't do these.
I'm sorry, you got to turn it on.
Yeah, turn it on. That didn't help. There we go. Here's some comps. They're not very good comps, but I think that the property is worth more than this. I think the property is worth around 70, 75. It does need to have some work done on it though. On the inside, it needs new carpet, linoleum, it needs paint. What's wrong one? There we go. So there's a map, it's here, and then there's Wagner, and I think that's around 18. It's not, it's Perry. It's Perry. So that gives you an idea of where it is. There's the plat map. So you can see the shape of the property. There is space. There was another mobile home there, so it's got the hookups and everything if you want to put a second mobile home on there to rent out. That's the front. There's the kitchen. The kids helped her paint. She's got 6. They're all homeschooled. That's the master. So this is the door from the main part of the house coming into the bedroom. That's the bathroom. This is the master bathroom. It has a soaker tub, a shower. The toilet is right here, third corner. It is a 3-bedroom. I've only got pictures of 2. They had the dog in the 3rd bedroom when I was there. And they've got goats and chickens. There are a lot of pecan trees. They get a ton of pecans out of it. And so this is a summary. Anybody who's interested, come talk to me. I know the 65, come talk to me. I'm trying to convince them that they need to take less. So just, if you're interested at all, just come talk to me, okay? That's it.
Okay, is there anyone else with a deal they'd like to present? Or something they'd like to brag about or something? Or tell us what you're looking for.
Just do it again. You know what? I'm gonna mention this. I wasn't planning to talk about this. I got nothing to show you, but I just had to. My name's Adrienne. I loan money to people who flip houses. I just had to take a house back in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Don't know if anybody cares about Fayetteville, but it was a one-story house, and the rehabber decided to add a second floor. So it's got a whole second floor, but it's got like nothing inside. It's got drywall, and that's it. It's not even mudded and ready to paint. It needs everything done inside. But it's in a great area of town, very desirable area of town. I'm not sure I want to work on it in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So anyway, if you know anybody that's interested in a real project, a real fixer-upper in Fayetteville, let me know. I'll be glad to give you some more information.
Thanks. I'll put in the Facebook group. Okay, does anyone else have a deal they'd like to present or something they'd like to brag about? Okay, well, if that's the case, then let me go through the intro real quick, and we'll bring the keynote speaker up here, Rich. All right. Everyone, thank you for coming. There are several REIAs in the area. We are the Midlands REIA. We meet every second Thursday of the month. Hopefully that's convenient to most of you, if not all of you. Please silence your phone. We do have an oops jar. If your phone goes off, including mine, we ask to put $5 into the oops jar, and that goes to charity at the end of the year. Now, we are capturing some video, of course. In fact, we're trying to do a live stream experiment right now. If the live stream thing works, then members who can't make it here, we'll try to live stream these meetings out as well. Liability disclosure. For the most part, anything you hear in meetings, not just ours, but like this, is pretty much personal experience or hearsay or whatever. If you have any legal or financial doubts or questions about anything you see here, then seek someone who is licensed and properly trained and qualified to give you a proper answer. Technically, the only person in this room that I know of who can give legal advice right now is in the back there. The attorney's going to speak, Richard Cole. Like for example, I can tell you what's worked for me legally, but I can't, I'm not going to tell you to do it. Rich can say do it. Okay, our goal for 2019 from the beginning of the year has been to increase the success rate. Nationwide, the success rate to doing even a single deal is only about 3%. Okay? And the gurus know this. They come to town, they have you go to their free 2-hour workshops and whatnot, and then they bring you into their 3-day events, which is where they give you the big upsell for their major coaching programs. Now, the national gurus are coming back into town. All right? There's one or two local people who try to sell you on these high-priced coaching programs. I'm going to maintain you don't need those, at least to start. Maybe once you get the money, then you can step into the coaching programs if you want to do that. But short story is they're going to try to get you put on your credit card or whatnot. And if that 3% figure is true, 97% of you are going to get stuck with $25,000 or more in debt. Because the guru gets paid, but you're still doing your day job or whatever. Okay? So be careful about these gurus who come at you with these expensive coaching programs. Just know you can learn the basics for really cheap or even free. Crandon. Where's Crandon? How many $25,000 coaching programs have you attended? 0. Same with you, Brianna. Any? 0. Get it? All right. Now, if you flip enough houses to make the $25,000 or whatever, then go ahead and join a coaching program. Just don't go in deep into debt for this stuff. I know people now who are still struggling to put food on the table because they did this. Don't do that. Okay, one of our goals is to increase success rate affordably to at least 20% by the end of this year. And from just talking to people and whatnot, it seems like we're on a pretty good start. And how we do that is not just our REIA, but other REIAs as well. Hopefully offer an abundance of resources, provide great networking, and by the size of this room, I imagine networking is adequate at least. Give the best training possible, at least from our viewpoints again. And we're always seeking to improve and adapt, and we want to learn and teach the best practices, especially local to our area, Midlands of South Carolina. Okay, what we do is we offer discounts to national vendors and supply houses, discounts to Midlands REIA trainings and workshops. We had our workshop, a rehab and home inspection workshop recently. Was it last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I think? And for members, it was free. Also, we give access to local cash buyers and members there of the website, documents. Okay, the videos, I apologize, videos I'm still working on. All right? I haven't figured out a way to, keep it within the members area, but I will. Also, close guidance for deals. Now, that's only Midlands REIA. We can't say it's going to happen nationally. All right? Like if you join another REIA or whatnot, you go to another REIA. We can't say you get close guides. It depends on relationships you make with people. But for the people, for example, I'm not saying I'm the best guide, but the people who have had questions, when you call me, I don't think you have a hard time reaching me. But I will get back to you. And I know there's other people here, like Andy Holland. He's been quite helpful with people and whatnot. I know Rick wouldn't mind sharing his experience and whatnot. Anyway, see our website, midlandsrea.com, for more details and whatnot of what a good REIA should provide. We're always looking for ways to improve. Any suggestions for workshops, maybe topics you want to cover and you don't want us to cover? Maybe subgroups. We actually just started a hidden market subgroup that actually Dean Louise is instrumental in running. So that's something I have high hopes for. We all do. If nothing else, okay, we are on social media. We're on the major ones especially, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. But if nothing else, I suggest you at least go to this one. This redirects to our Facebook deals group. Okay, so if you have a deal, it's a good deal. You'll see people jump all over, like 8, 9 people or whatnot. If it's not a good deal, you'll see people kind of ignore your post. Okay, but anyway, I suggest at the very least, go ahead and join that Facebook group, okay? As I mentioned, I'm still getting calls from people, we're the cash buyers. It's in the members area. If you don't log in, you're not going to see that drop-down menu. You're not going to see where the cash buyers are listed. Okay, when you log in, then you'll see the full drop-down, and that's where the cash buyers are. Yes, I know the website. Some people have told me it sucks. Okay, but anyway, that's where you find the cash buyers. And one more thing. If you call those phone numbers, please have a deal. Okay, don't just call to say, hey, hi, I just want to see how you're doing. Okay, please have a deal that you can present to them. Okay? Be respectful of their time. Okay, for 1 year membership, we ask $125 for a single and $200 for a couple. And REIA Bucks, there's something we have called REIA Bucks, where you can get credits towards things like memberships and workshops, whatever. For non-members, the first visit is free, and afterwards we need to charge $20 at the door. Okay, that's to help defray some of the costs and whatnot, regards to the room and all that. A few announcements. Okay, Dean Louise, can you talk about the book porn a little bit?
So this month's book is called The One Thing, and what it is telling you or teaching you is how to prioritize the things in your life, how to figure out. So you have a goal, if you're like most people, there's 10 million things you're working on in your life. And this book will help you figure out how to prioritize, to actually focus on a few things, make actual progress, and also be stress-free and give yourself permission to only work on those few things. It's a great book. If you ever feel like you're lost and you're doing too many things, pulled in 10 million different directions, it's a great book that will help you to find focus.
You said something about Civitan also?
Yeah, working on it. So Palmetto Civitan, I have some brochures and bookmarks. They're at the back table. Feel free to take some with you. We have monthly meetings that are not at the flight deck. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So you need to go to the group Facebook page. So in Facebook, just search Palmetto Civitan, and that will give you the directions of where we're going to be that night. We change locations periodically. We are an organization that has service projects for special needs, adults and children. We are trying to raise money to open up an after-school program that will have special needs children mixed in with standard developed children.
Well-bodied.
Thank you, well-bodied children. I'm always forgetting the word. We're hoping to open it up this August. And so we have fundraisers and stuff to come to periodically, and we usually advertise when we've got fundraisers coming up. If you're interested in joining, or at least coming to a meeting and seeing what we're doing, please feel free to come see us. And our next meeting is in 2 weeks.
Next week.
Next week?
July 16th.
Oh, yeah. See how well organized I am?
And also, if you have like donations, Palmetto Civitan Club also works closely with ARC of the Midlands. So if you have, it doesn't have to be money. Like for example, Crandon's donating some items in good shape that he had at one of his houses. Well, actually, his home that he's buying now. And I appreciate that, Crandon. So if you have things that you'd like to maybe donate that are in good shape, you know, not turds, you know, then I think Palmetto Civitan Club as well as ARC of the Midlands. I think one of them is a motorized wheelchair, actually. Yeah, thank you, Crandon. Okay, now for the Mike Green Technology Minute. Okay, this is each month we try to give a website or some other resource, either very low cost or free, to hopefully help you with your investment. Investing. This one's walkscore.com. Basically, you put in an address, and it gives you the walkability of that address. Like, for example, if you're looking for a certain demographic of a tenant, say it's a rental, and you want a place that's relatively close to shopping and whatnot, and do they need to walk? Is public transportation available, or do they need to drive everywhere? Okay, and then just go to WalkScore, and it'll give you a rough idea. In this case here, and it is free. As an example, I pulled up a house in Chapin that I wouldn't want to live at, but probably someone does. It's at 105 Lakeside Drive, and last I heard was the person who lived there is a real derelict. Okay, he doesn't have a car. Okay? So would you really want to have a walk score of just 2 when the maximum is 100? Okay, anyway. By the way, that's the Jim Everett's home. We're always blusting on that. Yeah, anyway, so you can go ahead and play with that, and hopefully it'll help you if you're, especially if you're doing out of area investment. Okay, a few things on the calendar. Women in Real Estate, Wired. That's run by Stacy Kennedy. Now Stacy couldn't be here, but that's actually a group that she's running just for women, who's obviously in real estate investing. The next meeting is on July 20th, which is, what's today's 11th? Okay, a week from this Saturday, at Panera Bread on Barrow Parkway, which is right off of Harbison Boulevard. Okay. Columbia Real Estate Investors Association. One of the leaders is back there, Rick Renner, actually, and Rick and D'Angelo run this one, and it meets every 4th Thursday of the month. The next meeting is at 7 p.m. at Grecian Gardens. Really good food, by the way. And on July 25th, Thursday. That's a great place to meet some seasoned investors. It's one I want to consider putting that in the calendar as well. And every last Friday of the month, Deborah Wanger holds a ladies' networking lunch. This is only for ladies, and it's kind of a general business discussion, and you kick around some ideas, basically. All right. At 1 p.m. at East Bay Deli, and the next meeting is on July 26th, Friday. And if you are going, please RSVP to Deborah with that phone number there. All right. Let her know you're going. All right. And just to summarize things up, oh yeah, one more thing. This kind of came across my plate. D'Angelo Laster, one of the co-leaders of Columbia REIA, actually put me in contact with somebody in Hilton Head. This is a broker in Hilton Head, and she's having, I know it's very short notice, she's having a workshop this Saturday. So if anyone's going to be in that area, you might want to consider maybe dropping in and see what Hilton Head has to offer if you want to invest money in Hilton Head. That's this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Bob, could you go back 1 second?
Yeah, sure. This broker's name is Carmen Washington, by the way. It's her own brokerage. Okay, just to summarize, we're going to be a lot more active with the website, the calendar especially. So if you go to calendar events, you'll see these events and where they are as well. Okay, we're going to start doing that faithfully. So if you say, okay, when's the wire meeting? Just go to our calendar, okay? Also, in regards to the Facebook Deals group I told you about, if you don't want to type in that link I showed you, just click right there. They'll take you to our Facebook Deals group as well. Okay, now for a speaker. I think everyone knows Rich Boland, whoever's doing especially creative real estate. Rich has been practicing law since the early 90s, and he's admitted to several state bars. And as you can see, he actually worked as general counsel for the state. But he specializes, he does mainly real estate closings now, but he also does probate and wills and whatnot. And there's good money in probate as well. All right, so this is a guy you might want to go to if you have a legal question on real estate as well as probate. Anyway, can we all give a big welcome to Rich Boland?
Hey, where's the podium?
Yeah, do you want one? We have them back there.
No, this is fine. We can improvise. You know, Marines. Say, adapt and overcome. Industrial looking. Is that, this come flying here, is it?
I don't think so.
I mean, if I use that thing, because I want to put some documents up, so I don't want to be in the way.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Y'all are following me on that, right?
Yep.
All right, I apologize a little bit up front. This is going to be a little bit stream of consciousness while I work on trying to fix the pudding. I meant to put more time into it, but you know how things go. So I'm just going to cover general basic legal concepts that you all need to be able to do this creative investing industry. Let me start with, anything I tell you tonight does not make me your lawyer. It does not mean that we have a lawyer-client relationship, that the information I give you cannot be used against me. If you're going to do something that's got a legal question, you need to talk to me about it specifically. The information I give you are not necessarily applicable to your deal. The deal that you have in your mind as I say something, and you think it fits what you're doing, and you run with it, and then you say, well, my lawyer, that's what I'm trying to avoid. So, but what I'm going to tell you, the information I give you is generally correct, and hopefully will be useful to you. And I'm going to bring my phone up here. Yeah, I just want to be able to keep track of time. What are we shooting for here? At about half an hour? What's up? Longer? Shorter? All right, well, we'll go and see how it goes. If I get the hook, I'll know I'm done. All right, so I'm just going to go over big, broad areas and refer to the issues. And if you all have questions, feel free to ask me. Bob, you want to ask as we go, or do you want to wait till the end?
Your call.
All right. I may overrule or tell you I'll deal with that later if you have questions. Try to keep it a little bit cohesive. All right, so let's start with kind of a chronological process. I'm not going to go over the process of finding your deals. That's not really a legal question. It's what a lot of training in here is about, but that's not what I'm going to cover. So we'll start with the assumption that you found a deal and you're talking with the owner of the property, or at least who you think is the owner. And at that point, you need a contract. And I'm sure all of you are aware that you need a contract, right? And it has to be in writing, signed by both parties, and it has to have some certain details. Otherwise, it's not really a valid contract. And it can't say either side can quit this contract anytime they want, because that kind of makes it not a contract. The contract is meant to be binding. Now, there are escape hatches and things that we can put in it, but I've seen a contract recently that said the seller can cancel his contract anytime he wants. No questions asked, no explanation, and essentially that means this contract is not really a contract. So a contract must have the parties, and the buyer is fairly fluid. And of course, a lot of what we're doing here is changing the buyer. We're assigning the buyer. So the buyer is not quite as important as the seller. The seller is very important. As a matter of fact, if you get the seller wrong, you don't have a contract. And you might not even have a contract if you have the right seller but the wrong title. So if Mary Jones is selling you a house and Mary Jones's mother's estate owns it, Mary Jones is not really capable of selling it to you unless she's the PR, the personal representative of the estate. If Mary is the husband or the wife of a husband who owns an LLC that owns the property, and Mary signs the contract as the seller, but she's not a member of the LLC, you don't have a contract. So you have to make sure that the person that is signing the contract that's telling you they own the property is the owner. And any of you, not any of you, but some of you that have worked with me have had me call you and say, we did the title search and the person you think is the seller is not the seller, or not the only seller. That's the other thing. You have to have all of the sellers, all of the owners have to be sellers, unless you want to live with the seller that didn't, the owner that didn't sign the contract, or if you think one of your buyers might want to do that. So you have to have the right seller and all of the sellers. It's kind of like the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You need all the sellers, and they need to be correct, and their title needs to be correct. In addition to that, you need to have the property, and it has to be something like an address, which is good. The address is very good. You can use an address, that's very helpful. Or a TMS number, tax map number. A legal description is not necessary, and probably you'd have a hard time finding it when you're at their kitchen table. But you can't just say the house on Orange Street. It has to be specific, and it has to be clear enough to know what exactly you're agreeing to buy or sell. Then you need a price. And a price doesn't have to be a number, necessarily, but it has to be a number that's ascertainable. You have to be able to figure out what you're supposed to be paying, or you don't have a contract. You should have a date for the closing. It's a little less clear that you have to have a date in order for it to be valid. And just a general principle, in contract law, if you have the essential elements, and that's about all you have, I mean, if all you have is the name of the buyer and the seller, the address, the purchase price, and the date you're closing, and even if you don't have the date you're closing, if you just have those facts, you can have a valid contract. And the rule of interpretation is all the other issues are whatever is reasonable. And reasonable is defined by what a jury says is reasonable, in case you end up fighting about it. So you may not have anything in there about who's paying the closing costs, or who's paying the transfer tax, or who's paying for the title search, or all of those kind of issues, even though they're generally addressed in most of the contracts I've seen that y'all have had. But if it's not in there, the law says you're going to do what's reasonable, what's common, customary, and normal in the situation where a buyer and a seller are making a deal. So it doesn't kill your deal if you don't have those details in there. And I will tell you, as a general rule, you don't want to strain on gnats when you're making deals under the circumstances that we're generally talking about. If you're buying a house in retail condition and you're paying full price for it, you can fight about every T and every I being dotted and crossed. But if you're trying to make a deal where you're going to make money, and you might make $10,000 or you might make $9,900, you don't want to fight about that. I've seen that too many times where people will sit at the closing table and threaten not to close because they don't want to pay $300 in taxes. And I'm just telling you, as a practical matter, you're much better off having a contract that gets you close to your target than not having a contract at all. The old adage, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So, you know, there's 1,000 great deals out there that you never got. So you want to make sure that you don't lose a deal over minutia in a contract. And another thing to keep in mind is that a contract is between the parties. They make it. It's like the law of the relationship between the parties. And the people that can change the law are the parties. So at any time you can change a contract. Once it's written down doesn't mean that's the end of the story. You can agree that we don't like what we wrote. We want to change it. So it's very important that you get the signature and have a contract. If the details aren't all the way ironed out, and you're going to wait around till you negotiate every detail before you sign something, somebody else is going to swoop in there with a warm smile and a pretty good deal and take it away from you. So you want to make sure you get the essential elements, but you also want to make sure you get a signature. So don't lose a deal because you're worried about whether the termite letter is going to come back clear, or you know, all the things that are important, but they shouldn't keep you from making a deal. Okay, so after you get the contract, and again, remember you can change it, but you know, you want the standard terms. And I think Bob there's some contracts on the website, right? And let me just put in a little caveat here. Nothing personal, but I'm starting to get a little too busy to review everybody's version of a contract and make sure that it is okay in South Carolina. If you're new to the game here and you're just finding a contract off the internet and you don't know whether it's legit or not, call Bob. And then he can send you to the website, sell you a membership, and you can get the forms that you need. And you won't have to worry about me telling you to rewrite it and send it back, or charging you a lot of money to rewrite it for you. Okay, the next thing after we have a contract. Now, I'm gonna dispense with the issue of assignment right now. We're gonna talk about that, but obviously, if you have a deal you're wholesaling, you don't really have a final deal when you just bought the house, but you don't have any money to buy it for real, and you're going to be selling. So the second part is another contract, which is an assignment contract. Well, let's talk about assignments anyway, since we're here. Assignments are basically you selling your right under the terms of the original contract with the seller. And it's a general common principle that you can sell contracts. And you see it all the time with mortgage companies. Mortgage companies, you close with Bank of America and you get a letter in the mail that U.S. Bank has taken over. And it's like, hey, I don't have no deal with U.S. Bank, but you did with Bank of America, and they assigned their interest to some other bank. And basically you're doing the same thing. You're making a deal with the seller, and then you're assigning it to somebody else. Now, maybe while we're here, I'll also go into what makes a deal an assignment and legal, and what makes you an unlicensed, illegal real estate agent. So, let's take a look at that. Do y'all understand that you have to have a license to be a real estate agent? Yes. And if you do it without a license, you're considered an unauthorized real estate agent, and I'll just read you the law here. A person who practices or offers to practice a regulated profession, i.e. real estate, or occupation agent, in this state, in violation of this article, or who knowingly submits false information for the purpose of obtaining a license, is guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction must be imprisoned not more than 1 year, or fined not more than $50,000. So, you better make that a really good commission. And the department, or the real estate commission, in addition to instituting criminal proceedings, may institute a civil action through the administrative law court in the name of the state for injunctive relief against the person violating this article. a regulation promulgated under this article or an order of the board. For each violation, the administrative law judge may impose a fine of no more than $10,000. So that's in addition to the criminal penalty. So we have to avoid pretending we're realtors when we're not. And I had a debate today with one of the lawyers in my office about whether you have to know you did it or not. And he says you don't have to know. And he used to be a prosecutor. He used to prosecute sex crimes. The statutory rape, you know, people say, oh, I didn't know she was 15. Unfortunately, that doesn't matter. So his position was that it doesn't matter whether you knew or didn't know that what you're doing made you appear to be a licensed real estate agent when you really weren't. You could still be prosecuted on this. So I want to put a healthy fear into you, but I don't want to make you think that, you know, the SLED has nothing better to do than look for people. But you do need to be conscious about it. And the specific law, that what I just read you is the penalty for practicing as a doctor or as a lawyer or as a real estate agent or a barber, anything that's licensed. The specific law is a little more vague. It says, it is unlawful for an individual to act as a real estate broker, real estate salesperson, or real estate property manager, or to advertise or provide services as such without an active valid license issued by the commission. So I was a little surprised about the property manager thing. So apparently that's within the same licensing and training. So the issue of assigning a contract does not make you a real estate agent. And the reason that's true is because there's a provision in the Real Estate License Act that says this chapter does not apply to the sale, lease, or rental of real estate by an unlicensed owner of real estate who owns any interest in the real estate if the interest being sold, leased, or rented is identical to the owner's legal interest. That's a little circular, but essentially what it says is that if you have a valid contract, that means you have an equitable interest in the property. You have a right under the terms of the contract to the property. They can't sell it to somebody else. They have to comply with the terms of the contract, and that gives you an equitable interest in property that you can sell. You can sell an equitable interest, just like the mortgage company has the right to inspect your home. If you were to ever read all the fine print in your mortgage, it would tell you that they have a right under reasonable circumstances and with proper notice to inspect your home to make sure that the collateral that they gave all this money to you on is still worth something. Hopefully more than what you owe them, at least from their point of view. So that's an equitable interest, and they can transfer that equitable interest to another mortgage company. Likewise, you have an equitable interest in a contract that you have, a valid contract, that you can sell to someone else. So that's how we get around being considered real estate agents. But as Bob has amply notified us on the Midlands REIA page, he doesn't want to see you advertising properties that you don't have a contract on, unless you are a real agent. I'm not even sure you want to do it then, right?
Well,
I mean, the Midlands REIA is...
You can't listen to the seller, sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is not the, you don't see hundreds of real estate agents putting ads on the website, and that's by design. We're not real estate agents generally. There are probably a few of us in here that are real estate agents, but his point is that he's not going to be facilitating. Let me see what it says. Trying to make sure Bob wouldn't be in trouble. Or to advertise or provide services. So you would be advertising the unlawful unlicensed practice of real estate if you provide the website or the Facebook page for someone who's not a real estate agent. So he has a legitimate reason to say, don't advertise stuff you don't really have a contract on. And again, SLED's not looking for Bob, as far as I know. But if there's a reward, we'll all race to get it. All right, so again, the assignment. Now, I've done a lot of assignments for folks in here, and sometimes it gets a little hairy. Sometimes the buyer doesn't like it, finds out that you're making money even though they're getting the deal they agreed to. Sometimes the seller doesn't like that you're making money even though they're getting the deal they agreed to. So you can actually sell the assignment just on a handshake and assignment. Say, you want this contract right here? Give me $5,000. They give you $5,000, you give them the assignment, and you're done. You never have to see anybody again. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. Most of the time, y'all are calling me going, hey, can you have the seller come in at 3 and the buyer come in at 10? But that is a resolution, just, you know, selling the assignment for $5,000 and they're buying a house for $25,000. It's costing them $30,000 out of their pocket, but they know what they're paying you to get that opportunity. And if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. It's just the emotion that gets involved with it that sometimes makes things a little more difficult than it needs to be. And on that point, I will emphasize, if you can keep your relationships positive with everybody involved, your life will be a lot better, a lot easier. Because if you're honest and open about what's going on, you'll have a lot more success with buyers and sellers. Because people, and you can do it just like the seller and the buyer can do it. You can sense when there's something they're not telling you. When their answers are always kind of half answers and they answer things that you don't ask and they don't answer the things you do ask. And it just gives you a bad vibe, and people can sense that, and it makes it much harder to do deals. And if people are mad at the end of this process, let me just tell you, you can sue anybody for anything. I can sue any one of you in here for killing my mother. And I may not win. I'm sure I won't win because I know none of you did that. But I could still do it. I could file a lawsuit against you and say that you killed my mother. And you would say, I never met your mother, and I'd be laughed out of court. But in the meantime, you're hiring an attorney, you're defending yourself, you're sweating, and you think I'm crazy. And that can happen with any mad seller or mad buyer or mad wholesaler. If they get mad and they put a lien on the property, they file a lawsuit against you because you lied to them or because you didn't do the deal that you said you were going to do and you didn't call them back and you kept dodging them. You know, that's not a good way to deal with it. It's much better to call people up and say, look, this is what I was going to do. It didn't work out. I'm sorry. What can I do to, you know, make it right and move on? So I just put that out for a little bit of advice. It's not exactly legal advice, but it's good advice, I think. All right. So assuming we have a contract, and maybe we have an assignment, maybe we don't. You call me. You send me the contract. I order a title search. Title search is designed to make sure that the property that you're buying is not I like to say, a pig in a poke. Because if you buy a property that has problems, you get the problems too. And generally the contracts say the seller has to sell you a good title. And they mean to sell you a good title because they're just trying to sell it. Now, I will tell you, I'm sure you probably have seen it, that people don't always tell you the whole story. And I've seen lots of earnest money deposits disappear because the one person on title who swore up and down that she was the only person took the money and ran, and the other people were not interested in selling. And you can sue that woman that runs off your, or man, that runs off with your earnest money deposit, but it's going to cost you about $5,000 to get your $500 back. Wow. So it's definitely important to do a title search, and there are a lot of problems that can pop up on a title search. I don't know if there's so many problems I hardly know where to start, but as we talked about, there could be lots of owners. There could be, just with the current situation, there could be an estate. There could be a misspelling of a name or the wrong spelling of a corporation. There could be lots of liens and judgments and tax problems. There could be actions, lawsuits that are going on with the people involved, even though it doesn't really affect your title. It puts a cloud on title potentially. And then going back in the chain, there can be lots of problems back in the chain. In other words, there can be a problem that the last guy bought and he's selling it to you and the problem's still there. And then when you go to sell it, the next person might not be willing to buy that problem. And sometimes you have to go back 30 years to fix a problem. And I'll tell you, lawyers in general, and you all probably know this, try to find every problem they can, and sometimes, frequently, make a big deal out of nothing. I mean, if you got a 30-year-old mortgage that nobody's paid on for 30 years, most likely there's no bank out there that's going to foreclose on that mortgage. But the reality is, it's technically a problem on title. And if you're trying to find the landroom savings and trust on a mortgage from 1992, it's pretty hard to do. And I do it on a regular basis, but it gets harder and harder as time goes by because these banks all merge and change names, and nobody knows who bought the bank that used to be Landroom Savings and Trust. And eventually it ended up, hopefully, at BB&T or First Citizens or somewhere that can say, okay, we'll write a satisfaction. But all of those things are legitimate issues. And then there's tax liens, right, Ted? IRS tax liens and Department of Revenue tax liens. And you know, they expire at some point, and the numbers are constantly changing. It says something on the official records, but that number doesn't necessarily reflect the real number when you go to buy it. So when the owner says, yeah, I had some tax trouble back in 2014, and you know, they say I owe them $5,000, and they show you the paper and say, oh, $5,000, I didn't know if I just pay that, I buy the house for 20, put 20,000 into it, sell it for 90,000, hey, that's a good deal. And then it turns out when you talk to the IRS, it's more like $70,000, and they'll be glad to take whatever you make in profit and release the property, and you have a problem. So the title search is searching for those kind of problems. Hopefully, we won't find that problem. Okay, so after the title search comes back and it's clean, we're ready to go, then of course you need the money. And there are lots of different ways to do financing. And that's kind of the bread and butter of what we do here, is figure out creative ways to finance a property. Of course, cash is kind of king. Cash is king. You can walk up and you can buy a house in a day, even with a title search, if you're really nice to me. And really, you know, if you have cash, you can walk into somebody's house and say, yeah, I'll buy it. Let me get back to you today at 5. I'll have a deed and I'll have a stack of 20s for you. And most people would be willing to do that. But that's a luxury a lot of us, I think, don't have. And frankly, if you're spending cash, you want to really, you need to know you're kind of in a position of strength in this business, because you're giving people cash. People like cash, so you don't have to close in one day if you have cash. It makes it a little easier to say, yeah, I'll close by the end of the week, and that gives you enough time to get a title search and pay a good price and not have to be stressing about it. But like I said, most of us don't have that option. So then we have owner financing. And owner financing is pretty easy to do and pretty straightforward. It's basically the owner of the property, the seller who's selling to you, is willing to let you pay over time. So instead of borrowing $50,000 from a bank and paying them 10% interest or whatever deal you make every month for the next 10 years, or 20, or however long they're willing to go, you're basically paying the seller that money every month for 10 years or 20 years based on the purchase price and an interest rate and the term of the loan. So that's pretty straightforward. I think you all understand that. Now, I will tell you, most owners aren't too keen on that idea, though I've seen more and more lately, particularly older people who have a second home and they'd rather have steady income coming every month, in addition to their Social Security or whatever, they have another check coming from you. So it's out there, and it's very reasonable, very straightforward process. So if you get those, they're fine. Then of course there's the normal mortgage, and believe it or not, there are quite a few commercial lenders. In addition to hard cash private lenders, there's banks and mortgage companies that are doing loans on investment and flips. You know, flip's a dirty word in the mortgage world. But as long as everything's on the up and up, there are products out there that you can use. You know, the rates are high, the points are high, the costs are high, but it's a viable alternative if you got a good deal, good enough deal. But of course, you know, if you're paying a lot of fees for that kind of lending, and you can get money somewhere else at cheaper costs, then that's better. And the private lenders are out there, right? And there's a bunch of private lenders in this room, and there's lots of them on that Bob's list. And it's the same principle, same idea. You got, you know, points, and you've got obligations. You sign a mortgage, you meet their requirements, their standards, credit scores, history, whether they like you or not. All that goes into it. And then there is the one I think we'll spend a little bit of time. I'm just going to gloss over it now, finish up a couple of things, and we'll come back to it. But the subject to, where Bob put out the notice that I was going to be speaking and asked for what topics people wanted me to cover. The subject to was a big subject. A lot of people are interested in that question, and so we'll come back to that a little bit. So assuming you have the financing and the deal closes, I had quite a few questions in addition to the subject to issue on taxes. And there are lots of taxes involved in a real estate deal. And I tell everyone at a closing that I do not give people income tax, capital gains tax, federal withholding, state income tax advice. I can't do my own taxes, and I'm not competent to tell anyone anything about what's going to happen to them because I just made $30,000 in a month. So, if you have questions about that, again, ask Bob, and he'll find someone that can answer for you. But there are also the property taxes on the property that I feel comfortable talking about that for you. And then there's also the transfer tax, and that's one of those fees that you have to pay when you do a closing that people get for some reason. I don't know why. That particular one just seems to make people feel slighted if they have to pay, either on the seller side or the buyer side. But that's that stupid tax the state puts on for the privilege of selling a piece of property. $3.70 per $1,000 of purchase price. Somebody's got to pay it, and the state doesn't care who pays it, but somebody's got to pay it. But don't lose a deal over $3.70 per thousand. And I generally prorate them on a closing. That's the normal language in the deed. I mean, in the contract that says at the closing, the taxes, property taxes, will be prorated to the date of closing. So in other words, the seller pays from January 1st through July 11th, and the seller pays, or the buyer pays from July 11th to December 31st. And we just split it, however the date comes out. But like I said, I've seen a lot of people get worked up about that, and it can be big. I mean, if you have a $100,000 property and it's non-owner occupied, we're talking $3,500. And you know, if you're closing in December, the seller's paying $3,400, and they don't like that when they find out they thought they were going to make $20,000 net, and then you say, oh, except that you got to pay the property tax, which is $3,400. So now you're only making $15,600. $16,600. And so it can be a big deal. And let me tell you about that. The way the property tax works in this state, at least for residential, commercial is pretty straightforward. It's whatever the state tells you, the county tells you, you got to pay. But residential, if you live in the house, it's a third of what it is if you don't live in the house, and it's even lower if you have a homestead exemption. And a homestead exemption is a specific term. It means has a specific meaning. It doesn't mean you live in the house. Homestead means that you have either reached the age of 65 or you have a disability, and I think being 100% blind or 90% blind qualifies you for a reduction in the purchase price, or the value, the appraised value of the house, or the assessed value of the house. So if the house is worth $100 and you have homestead, they knock off $50,000 and then tax the house at $50,000 at 4% because you live there. You can only get homestead if you live in the house. But if you don't have homestead and you live in the house, you pay 4% millage. And Mike, if you want to jump in at any point about what the city of West Columbia is doing. So what that means is that you're at 4% millage is the lower rate, and the higher rate is 6% for the non-owner occupied homes. And that seems like, oh, 2%, that's nothing. But the reality is, 2 is half of 4. So that's 50% different from 4 to 6. Plus, the non-owner occupied house pays the school tax, which the owner occupied house does not. So literally, it's at least 3 times as much if you don't live in the house.
Closer to 4.
Usually 4.
It's closer to 4 times.
Yeah, and
If
some
it's,
of
the one I had last week was, it was a $600 tax, and the investor was going to have a net tax of $2,400.
yeah, so that's right at 4 times.
4 times.
And
So we just figured 4 times.
and it's a little confusing about how exactly the county figures what applies. Because if you buy a house and it's in the name of the owner who lived there and they're at 4%, even if they have the homestead, the county is going to charge you that for this year. And if you don't say anything and you just pay the bill when it comes out, you're paying that rate for this year. And the next year, it's going to be adjusted based on who bought the house this year. So if you're closing this year and you're buying a house that's owner occupied, it's at 4%, just pay the tax bill and don't argue about it. If you buy a house that's at 6%, and you sell it before the end of the year, and the owners that buy it are going to live there, then they need to go tell the county they live there, and they are entitled to the lower rate. And they'll give you the lower rate for the year. So, JD is familiar with this issue. Yeah. If you close on a house, and as the seller, I'm requiring you to hold out your percent of the tax bill. So, let's say the tax bill is $10,000. You close in December, so you're paying $9,000, and I'm holding it in escrow to pay the tax bill. And the seller, the buyer, is moving in to the house and they're going to live there. And all they have to do is go to the county and tell them they live there, and the county will reduce that tax bill to the 4% rate. So then, let's say it goes to $3,000. I'm holding $9,000 of the seller's money, which hopefully is you. And if the buyer would just go to the county and tell them they live there, I can give you $6,000 back and pay the $3,000. But if they don't tell them, and the county says, I want $9,000, I have to pay $9,000. You just lost $6,000 because the buyer couldn't get off their duff and change their license and go change the rate from 4 to 6. So, I'm not exactly sure what the answer to that is, because you can't make the buyer do things, but it really is better for the buyer too. And it works the other way too. If you buy a house and you get a credit for 6%, and then you're able to change it and reduce it to 4%, you get a windfall that you got a bigger credit from the seller than you should have. But you got to take the good with the bad.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
A real estate agent suggested this to me, and it's been fantastic having to, as an investor, if I hold a property and I'm selling it during the year to an owner occupant, what we try to put in the contract is a special condition at the end that says property taxes to be prorated at the owner occupied rate. So even though I owned it for a portion of the year as an investor, they are going to live in it as an occupant. They're going to go apply for that 4% rate. So I'm not going to get whammoed by them taking a whole lot of money out of my side of the deal, out of my proceeds from closing, to cover the property taxes that they're not going to have to pay. So I would recommend that sentence: property taxes to be prorated at the owner-occupied rate. Put that in the sales contract, and that works.
Right.
And you have to remind your agent to do that
Every time.
Otherwise they'll forget.
Right.
Because you.
And sometimes the sellers or the buyers will balk at it because we're like, well, what if the county doesn't do it? It's like, well, that's a different fight for another day. Yes.
I sold the house in December, and I told that it was going to cost. It was a difference like $2,000. I told the buyer if they went down and did it, I'd give them a check for like 20% of the money.
Right. But that's
There's
still
a big enough incentive for them to go do it.
Right. It certainly helps. It gives them that incentive, but you know how people are. So.
I have a question. What happens when an owner-occupant decides to rent their personal property out?
It goes up.
If it's rented for more than 72 days in a year, it counts as a non-owner occupied property.
So it's a matter of the county catching it. I mean, I've had people divorce, ask if they get divorced and get, homestead or owner occupied on both houses. Say one's the wife's, one's the husband, ex-husband, ex-wife, even though they're still married, they both just were trying to reduce it. I mean, people come up with lots of ways to crack that nut. but, and it's a matter of the county catching up with you.
Right.
I mean, they're not necessarily the most efficient in the world. Yes.
Couldn't the seller just pay all the taxes?
Can they?
Yeah.
Sure, you pay as much as they want, the county will take whatever you give them. But sellers generally aren't real amenable to that idea. If you can get them to agree to that in the contract, that's great.
I will say, if you do, like if you live in your home and then for whatever reason you buy another home and you rent it out, if they catch you, my first winter house in Spartanburg, they called me, they went back 2 years. I had to pay back taxes for 2 years, so. just be
At the higher rate. At the higher rate.
Yes.
Noted.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
and they will go back actually and give you a refund. And I don't exactly know what the calculus is because it seems like it's different every time I talk to them. But if you are an owner occupant and you pay the 6% and then you kind of realize it and you go back in March and say, oh, I forgot to tell you, they'll give you a refund. But if you go in June, they might say, ah, too late. So I don't know exactly what the rule is, but it's always worth a try to go back and tell them that it was your residence back in December or whatever it was. So that's a fun topic. All right, so let's go back to the.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
This probably isn't ethical, but say you're flipping houses and you're like buying things from like the MLS or something like that as owner occupied, and you're only planning on having it for a total of like 71 days. How can they possibly catch up to that?
No. And if you're going to plan for 71, you might want to go for 73.
Ooh.
But no, I mean, in theory they could, but again, it's kind of like unauthorized practice of real estate. Somebody's got to complain and somebody's got to put a bug in some regulator's ear to go look. And it's not like they're just reviewing the multiple listing services, cross-referencing with the filings at the county and figuring out who's doing what.
Don't they get notified when somebody does a change of address though? Because I've seen people's taxes go from 4 to 6% when they moved out without.
Yeah, and they do some cross-referencing when your name is on 2 pieces of property, and they both come up to 4%. But you may not be the only. I'm sorry, what's your name? Jim what?
Everett.
Everett. You may not be the only Jim Everett. If I remember right, you were the quarterback for the Rams, weren't you? So it might just be a coincidence that 2 guys named Jim Everett have 4%. Or it might be Jim Everett's trying to game the system. And they may look into it.
More likely.
May not, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's theoretically they could catch you, but practically it's not that likely. The problem is if they do catch you, then you're stuck paying a big chunk at once. And if they think you're willful and they go back and check under your name for every property you own, and all of a sudden, you know, they find 10 of them in that 4% where you swore under penalties of perjury that it was your primary residence, then then it could get a lot more
So you
serious.
start searching title and you'll see the same name, J.M. Gosley, Jan Gosley, Janet M. Gosley. You know, none of the names are quote unquote the same, but they're the same person.
Right. And Gosling ain't exactly Smith. So it might be a little suspicious of that one. Okay, so the subject to, and this includes wrap mortgages, and I'm sure a lot of you don't know what that term means. When you buy a house and you finance it subject to, that means you're buying the house, you're getting a deed from the seller, but you're not paying off the mortgage that's in the seller's name. Now, in every mortgage, all right, in every commercial mortgage, there is a clause that explicitly says, we'll put this up so you can read it, but it's usually around paragraph 18 of these 10, 12-page mortgages. But the caption is, transfer of property or a beneficial interest in borrower. As used in this section 18, interest in the property means any legal or beneficial interest in the property, including, but not limited to, those beneficial interests transferred in a bond for deed, i.e. a mortgage, contract for deed, installment sales contract, or escrow agreement, the intent of which is to transfer the title by the borrower at a future date to a purchaser. If any part of the property or any interest in the property is sold or transferred, or if the borrower is not a natural person and a beneficial interest in the borrower, i.e. the LLC, for all those of you who think you can beat the system, is sold or transferred without the lender's prior written consent, lender may require immediate payment in full of all sums secured by the security instrument, i.e. the mortgage. However, this option shall not be exercised by the lender as such exercise is prohibited by applicable law. And I can tell you it is not prohibited by applicable law in South Carolina. So, when you take over a mortgage, you are doing it at the pleasure of the mortgage company. So they can foreclose on you just because you got a deed, just because the seller transferred a beneficial interest. So that means if you do a contract for deed, or you do a trust and they put in the trust and then you become the trustee and the beneficiary, but you didn't really change the deed, this covers that. So, wow, as a practical matter, that adds a layer of opacity, makes it a little harder to figure out what happened. It still violates the due on sale clause. And there's a lot of lawyers who won't do it because they see this paragraph and they say, I'm facilitating a breach of contract by helping this transaction happen. And that's a reasonable argument, and it actually may be true. But on the other hand, my position is that if you're in a position that you're willing to transfer your house to somebody that you may or may not know, because that's the best option you have, that's probably an indication that you're not going to be paying this company, this mortgage company, sometime very soon, if you haven't already stopped paying. So, while it's true, it's a violation of this clause, it's also true that this is a better option for everybody involved. A subject to means that you, the buyer, who's taking over the subject to, are going to bring it current. In other words, you're going to pay the past due payments so that the bank gets all the money they're supposed to have. And as far as they're concerned, everything's current. So you're going to put some money into it. The seller is going to get this past due account caught up on their credit score, and they're counting on you to pay the mortgage and eventually pay it off. And the bank is going to get all the money they're entitled to. So in reality, we may be breaching the technical language here, and frankly, it's only the seller, because this isn't binding on me, and it's not binding on you. This doesn't, we didn't sign anything with the bank. We didn't agree to do anything for the bank. They didn't give us any money. And the seller is the one who's breaking the contract. And the bank has their recourse. They can foreclose anytime they want. But I will tell you, in my experience, and I don't know if anyone in here has a different experience, but in my experience, I have not heard of a bank foreclosing merely for the transfer of the title, as long as it's being paid. I've heard of plenty of sellers calling up a year later going, oh, that guy, Joe, he paid for 3 months and then he stopped paying and I can't get a hold of him and now the bank's calling me. But the only reason the bank's calling is because they're not getting paid, not because the deed was transferred. So my attitude is I'm helping everybody. I'm not really motivating the seller to breach the contract they have with the lender. If anything, I'm helping the lender to be made whole, and so are you when you do these. And I'm helping the seller to get out of a bad situation. And any of you who've done this with me know I use this form, which I call a due on sale clause acknowledgement, which I have the buyer and the seller sign. And it basically says what I'm telling you right now. That to you, Mr. Seller, if this buyer who you just met but you think is really an upstanding guy who's going to do what he says he's going to do, doesn't do what he says he's going to do, this foreclosure is going to show up on your credit report. You're going to have a mortgage on your credit as long as this loan is not paid off. By signing this deed, all you're doing is transferring the property. You're not getting rid of the mortgage. And I tell the buyer, you might put $15,000 into this house, get it ready for market, and get a tenant in there, and get a big down payment and start recouping your money. And the bank may say, we're foreclosing tomorrow. Here's the notice. And you might be in a bad spot. But even in that circumstance, again, the bank is mostly interested in getting their money. As you well know, that's the business they're in. So if they do notify you that they're foreclosing because the house was sold, they can't do it in a day. They can't do it in a month. And if you work with them, you'll have plenty of time to refinance the house. And as I mentioned early on, there's money out there for rehabs, and there's also money out there for investment properties, particularly that are tenant occupied. So you can always refinance this. Presumably you can do it. And even if you can't do it on your own, there's people in here that will JV with you to refinance a house that's got a tenant, a house that's cash flowing with a mortgage that needs to be paid off. That's a pretty easy deal you can make with people in this room to pay off this mortgage and get the bank out of your hair. So the subject twos are a little controversial. They can, I mean, I killed one of yours, didn't I?
Almost.
But she, do you mind me telling you the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Brianna called me once and asked me to talk to the seller and try to reassure her that, you know, Brianna was the greatest thing since sliced bread and there's nothing to worry about. But I couldn't quite say there was nothing to worry about. And when I told her, I said, you know, obviously this is an option you're considering. So you probably don't have a lot of good options. The house needed work. The lady didn't have the money to put into the house. She couldn't sell it as is, normally as an MLS listing. So she was looking for options. And when I told her, you know, that there is a risk. It's not, you know, that's life. I mean, life has a risk. There's a risk when you bought the house, and you're in that risk right now of having your credit ruined because you can't afford to fix this house, you can't afford to pay for it. So, you know, your options are kind of limited. And eventually, she decided she didn't want to take that risk. But Bree, being the greatest thing since sliced bread, was able to pull it out of the fire and made it work. So there is a risk that I'm going to blow your deal for you when I tell people the truth. But
let me say that she did feel very comfortable with doing it that way. She felt after she talked to Rich and she knew the pros and cons, because I was telling her the pros and cons too. Rich verified everything with her, and she did feel way comfortable because she didn't really have another option. So, right. But we ended up finding a cash buyer, so it just worked out there.
Right, and it really is a good solution, particularly if you, the buyer, are putting a bunch of skin in the game. If you put down $5,000 just to make the deal happen with the seller, and then the seller knows that this house is a death trap and you're going to have to put another 20 in it just to make it livable, and probably another 40 to make it so you can sell it, they know you're not going to let the mortgage foreclose when you just put 40 grand into a house. So they have a much higher level of comfort. If you're pulling this fast and loose stuff, yeah, just sign here and I'll make your payments in 2 months, and as soon as I get a tenant, I'll make it every month, and if the tenant, you know, doesn't show up or doesn't pay, then it's back on you, and you just don't mention that part, you just kind of, that's your plan. And that's what I was talking about, having your relationship that, you know, they can feel it when you won't, you know, give them a good answer. And the fact of the matter is, you get in trouble when you don't tell people the truth. When you start cutting corners, and particularly for me as an attorney, I mean, I have a license, and I mean, this argument that lawyers make that I'm not doing this because it says right here you're violating the mortgage, I mean, that's a legitimate concern that I would have to defend. I'm prepared to defend it, but I'd rather not to the bar. I'd rather not have to have them, you know, say that some seller turned me in and said I ripped them off and lied to them. That's why I get this form, so I can say, I told them exactly what the risks were. They didn't have any better option. And the reality is, life is just not as neat and cookie cutter as the laws try to make it sound. It's easy to say, never break the speed limit. It's great. We all agree that's perfect. Yeah, we'll all do that. But it just doesn't work in real life. And this mortgage due on sale clause is a great idea. It's, you know, the bank puts it in there for their own protection, not for the seller's protection. But again, it's something that you have to address, and if you do it up front, you won't have someone come back 6 months from now going, I can't believe this, no one told me this was gonna happen. I'm gonna say, yeah, someone told you, me. Right here, see, remember you signed this? So let's see what we can do. And I've had that happen. I've had people, and in the past where they get behind and their tenant flakes out and they don't know what to do, and I just had them sign a deed back to the seller. I mean, it's not ideal, but at least the seller has their house back and they can do what they have to. They're basically back in the position they were, hopefully not too much wear and tear worse, as they were 6 months earlier when they were about to get foreclosed. So, now a wrap mortgage is basically just a subject to mortgage. Let's say it's a $100,000 purchase that you're doing with your buyer. You got a $70,000 mortgage on the house, and then the buyer is going to pay you 10 down and borrow 20. They're going to pay you 20 over time. So they're basically paying 10,000 cash and 90,000 in a mortgage. The first 70 is in the mortgage that you got from the seller who sold you the property. The other 20 is in a mortgage to you, a second mortgage or a wrap mortgage. So there's two ways of doing that. You can either do a $90,000 mortgage from the buyer to you, and then you just have the $70,000 one from the seller. But then it looks like you have $160,000 worth of mortgage on the property. The other way is to do a $20,000 second and a $70,000 first. The reality is it doesn't really matter what the number is on the mortgage, because when and if you either get paid off or you foreclose, you're going to have to determine what that number is at that time. So the mortgage is only $100,000 for the first payment. Then after that, it's some number below that because you've made a payment. And then if you get behind, it's some number above that because you've got interest and late penalties and filing fees and maintenance fees, all kinds of stuff. So the number on a mortgage is a moving target. So even though it shows that you have $160,000 worth of mortgages on the property, when they go to refinance it or sell it, you'll give them a payoff for 20, the other one will give a payoff for 70, and it'll be a $90,000 payoff. So I think that covers everything. I don't know what time it is.
I got a question. In a subject to deal, if I'm the buyer, how do I know this? Okay, if I'm making payments to the original mortgage holder, how do I know that that mortgage holder is actually paying the bank? So can you stipulate in the contract that the payments that I would make to the subject to seller be made in the name of the
Yeah,
bank?
I mean, you can make that arrangement. Whether it actually happens or not is another question. But you can either have access to the account, which I always recommend, that you get an authorization from the seller, allowing you to talk to the bank, and then you confirm every month that a payment's been made. Now, if you give them a check and you go back and check on the 15th and no payments been made, then you're going to have to figure out what happened to the money that you gave to the seller. Or you can just make the payment directly to the bank. And then they have the same question. What if you don't pay the bank? How do they know? And they go and look, and on the 15th there's no payment. And they're like, hey, what happened to your July payment? And they're chasing you instead of you chasing them. So, and the bank's going to be chasing both of you if neither of you pay. And literally they will chase both of you, because when you get the foreclosures lawsuit, it'll say Jim Everett and former owner as defendants. So, yes.
I got a question. Do you need an EMD when you sign a contract with the seller?
No. Not to make it a valid contract. It's called an executory contract, which basically means you both agree to do something in the future, and that's the consideration. You promise to buy, they promise to sell, and that's the consideration. Earnest money deposit is really meant to show that you are earnest. In other words, you're sincere that you're really going to buy it. They're not just putting in the contract, tying up their house, and then you say, I changed my mind. Earnest money deposit isn't consideration for the contract. That's what people say, that it's consideration, you need consideration, but it's not really consideration. Consideration is the agreement to purchase, and their consideration to you is agreement to sell. So no, you do not have to have an earnest money deposit, but if I were the seller, I would say get a big one. And if I were representing you, the buyer, I would say give them a little one.
I have a question. I have a seller whose other owner just disappeared into the ether. I can't find them, neither can they. Is the seller's recourse for that?
The seller's recourse?
Yeah, how can they possibly sell it if they can't get the other seller to sign off on it?
They can't. I mean, they can sell their half, but they can't sell the other half.
So
They can't make them sell it even if they find them. Finding them is only half the problem. Then you've got to convince them, when he didn't even want you to know where he was, that you got a good idea for what to do with his property.
So there's no recourse? Because they heard from their attorney that there's like a 30-day wait period, like speak now or forever hold your peace kind of thing.
Is there an
Well,
advertisement thing?
you can do a quiet title action.
Yeah.
And you can have the judge, you know, you can go tell the judge, I think my brother's dead. And I really, and he doesn't have any kids, he doesn't have any other family, I'm the only one, and I should get his half of the house, and, but since he's dead, he can't really agree or disagree, and that's a little facetious because you don't have to open probate, but you can say he's missing, and you don't know who the owner is, perhaps, though you can go back and look at the title. But anyway, yeah, there's no easy way to make a missing seller appear, or to take away their rights in the property. I mean, you wouldn't want that to happen to you. If you just didn't feel like dealing with your family, who's, you got stuck owning with some loser in your family, and you don't want to deal with them. You don't want some court taking away your rights because you didn't feel like dealing with your strange cousin. So there's really no way to make a seller, an owner, sell, unless you're the state and you need it for a highway or something.
Well, in this case, it was like a divorce, so it's kind of.
Yeah, it's even more. But it actually is a little better because normally in a divorce there's an order where the judge says, you, husband, will transfer your half to the wife. And if he disappears, then that's probably where the 30-day came in. They can do what's called a rule to show cause and ask the judge to order the deed to be signed and executed for the husband who, for some reason, decided to disobey the court's order from a year ago or whatever. That's a different story altogether. Because there's already a judge's order. He's already had his hearing. He's got his chance to tell the judge why he should not sell. And the judge says, no, I disagree. Give your half to her. So, there was another question. So.
We had a guy in prison one time. That was fun.
Yeah, prison guys are usually pretty motivated, though.
Yeah.
Right.
You know exactly.
You can find them on the internet and even get a picture. Yeah, the SCDC's website. It's easy to find them.
Yeah, another question. When you JV with somebody, do you give them like a 1099 to the other person?
That's one of those federal tax questions. I specifically at the beginning. The rule is that if you pay more than $600 to someone, you're supposed to give a 1099. If they're a right, if it's a private person or an LLC. But if it's a JV, you're not exactly giving them, you're not paying them for services. You're more like a partnership, which would mean a K-1 file. But again, I'm not giving anyone a tax advice.
Yeah, you just have a contract with the partner and trying to split it at home, so you don't have to work on it.
So let me ask a lender question.
All right.
All right. So I've heard of some lenders who ask their borrowers to go ahead and sign a deed in lieu, under the assumption that there could be a problem in the future. They might default on the terms of the mortgage. The deed in lieu is supposed to be just held in trust. It's not going to get recorded.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that? Is that a viable strategy for someone like me?
I do. I generally hold the deeds, and this is something I probably shouldn't do because it just adds headache to me that I don't need. I basically get in between the two parties who I helped do the deal, and then 2 years later I'm then trying to figure out who's right, who's wrong, and trying to settle the score. But a lot of times what happens is the buyer just gets behind. They just can't do it, and they're willing to just say, fine, I'm done. If you call it even, I'll give you the deed. And they'll tell me that. They'll say, yeah, that's fine. You can just give her the deed back. And then I do. But it doesn't require them to come in, it doesn't require, working out the details. It's just, once they say yes, and I get it in writing, maybe email or text, but I get something from them saying, yes, you can file the deed back to either the seller or the lender. Essentially, that's what a mortgage says. If you were to read a mortgage, it says, hereby assigns all equitable interest in the following real property. And then it's got Exhibit A in the back, shows what it is. So if you read it, it sounds like you're giving the property to the bank. But technically, you're not. But yeah, that's about what we do.
What if the borrower didn't want to just give it back?
Well, that's where it gets sticky, where I'm stuck. Usually I'll just say, well, whenever y'all give me something that you agree to, both of you agree to, it's kind of like earnest money. Buyers and sellers debate who breached the contract, why the deal didn't happen. And, if the buyer says it was the seller's fault, and the seller says it was the buyer's fault, and they both claim they're entitled to the earnest money, I just say, well, whenever you all work it out, you send me something signed by both of you saying what I should do with the money, I'll do it. Or I'll just hold it until the court tells me what to do with it. But I can't be the judge between the parties, and it's probably unethical because I sort of represent both. If you close with me, you heard me say I represent both of you and I represent neither of you at a closing. So I can't decide I can't take sides on who gets the earnest money unless you all agree to it. All right? Yes?
I got one last question. Do you do lease option?
Yeah, that was Kevin's question, wasn't it? Yeah, lease option is, it's kind of like a contract for deed. It's basically a rental agreement, and then tacked on the end of it says you can buy this house for the term of the lease at X dollars, and gives you, the terms. The problem with lease option is it makes it a foreclosable transaction. In other words, if they don't pay, you can't just go down to the magistrate and evict them. You got to go to the circuit court and do a foreclosure filing, and then it's 30 days discovery. Yes, Rob. Bob.
In my experience with the Aiken industry, if there's an active contractor option in play with your lease, they'll make you take it to master equity. But what if instead of a contractor and option on the property, there's a contractor option on a contractor option to the property? Basically, once removed. So you think they still make this take to the master equity?
Yeah, they'd say, that's real cute. Now go see the master equity. The master equity. Yes.
You did a contract, like a contract for a contractor. Can I add, be specific of what I want, have at least 2 people working?
Oh, yeah.
At least working 5 days a week, 8 hours at least, without lunch. Can I be specific on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can agree to anything you want.
I might edit my own contract.
Yeah. The problem with contracts or with any paperwork, I would say this at closings. The bank goes through all these things and tells you not to do all these bad things. Don't make meth in your house, and don't let the roof leak, and don't lie on your application. All these things they tell you to do, but the reality is, if you're a crook and you're going to do that kind of stuff, signing a paper's not going to not make you do that. And the contract who's just trying to get the $5,000 down is going to promise you all of that.
Can I also
and then he's going to say, joke's on you, thanks for $5 grand.
Can I also put, I'm not responsible for how you pay your employees?
You don't need to. I mean, that's true, whether you put it in there or not.
Okay.
But you can put it in there if you want. You can put anything you want in a contract. You can tell him he's got to rub your feet every Friday night. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But it's whatever he agrees to do.
Okay.
You're both adults.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you recommend that be the best method to do that? Via email, via an official letter that you send through the mail, verbally, what's your recommendation? And is there a certain language that has to go within that verbiage as well?
Yeah, I didn't mention this explicitly, but every contract that relates to real estate must be in writing to be valid.
Okay.
And it has to be signed by the parties in order for it to be valid. It can't be, it can be a DocuSign signature, but it can't be just an email. That's kind of an open question because, you know, everything's electronic, everything's emails and text, and the courts have generally taken a much broader view of what a writing is. The standard language is it has to be a writing signed by the parties to be charged, which means the two parties to the agreement. And a signed paper was real paper, and the signature was a real wet signature, not a photocopy. But that was, you know, 150 years ago. Now it's, you know, everyone operates in the digital world. So ideally, you would have a written either DocuSigned or a real signature. Though photocopies are fine now. Generally, photocopies, you know, literally, this is just a little historic anecdote, but you know, at the bottom where it says, I notarize this document, I swear that the document is true and accurate copy of blah, blah, blah. Literally, people used to copy a document. They'd read this piece of paper and write it. And you would sign the bottom and swear that you wrote what was on here. And we haven't changed the swearing, the acknowledgement of a document since copiers were created. So, you make a photocopy, you don't have to worry about whether the copier is telling the truth or not. But you still have a signature at the bottom by the clerk of court or whoever says, I swear this is a true and accurate copy. It's like, of course it is, you just took it off the copier. You know, I suppose you could white out or put another piece of paper on it, but it just seems it's a little antiquated to say he promises a real copy. But a DocuSign document or a real signature. And the cancellation language just has to reference the contract dated XYZ between parties A and B for the sale of the property located at whatever is hereby canceled. And you might want to put in something that says, and both parties mutually agree that they have no claim against the other party. That this is the full satisfaction of all claims related to the contract. Now, to me, I can say that without hardly thinking about it, but I'm sure it feels like I just told you a lot to put in there. But basically, you don't need that language about we don't have any claims. The cancellation pretty much speaks for itself. But in this day and age, it helps to make things really explicit. So there's no ambiguities about who owes what to whom. But that definitely needs to be in writing. Yes?
Yes, to kind of go back to the lease option, is there any kind of language you can put in there that you won't, if something was happening, you won't have to go through foreclosure, so you can just
Well, you can put it in there.
Yeah.
The problem is, they all agree to that at the time they're signing the lease.
Right.
They promise you they would never do that to you. Right. They'd be happy to leave if they can't make their payment, blah, blah, blah. And then when it happens, they, hire an attorney, some dirtball who's trying to screw you. And then they say it wasn't a purchase and that they thought they owned the house. And, So, sure, you can put it in there, but it doesn't. The judge is going to say, yeah, well, you say whatever you want, but I'm the judge. I've heard that before.
So you could say like a lease option on, is it a land contract? Is that
Same thing, same thing. I'm not exactly sure what the advantage to an option is. I mean, if you have a lease and the guy comes to you and says, hey, I'd really like to buy the house. You say, okay, hey, I got a contract right here. Let's sign up and we'll have a contract. What did you gain by having an option?
Tax payment, taxes. Wouldn't that property tax go down if he's now the owner?
Well, you can do that with a lease, though. You can go fill out the affidavit that says, my intention is to purchase this home and I'm working toward paying for it on a contract for deed basis. The county is not going to argue about it. They will probably say, okay, well, give me a copy of that agreement with the current owner, at which point you're back where you started. Once you put their name on the title for purposes of getting a lower tax rate, you're agreeing that they're the new owner. And so then you got to foreclose. So, I mean, sure, you can get that advantage, but that's really, yeah, you just tell them, hey, it sucks that the rate's so high because you're a tenant, but you're paying it. You're paying the taxes. I'm not paying the taxes. That's part of the rent. And then, it just solves the problem. How are you going to pay that higher tax? And it keeps you from having to foreclose on it. Yes.
What's the minimum you require to start a title search?
I hate to say this, because my paralegal is going to get on me, but I don't normally charge to do a title search. I will tell you, if I have a lot of cancellations, your titles don't get done as fast in the future, because I'm spending $200 or something on a title search, And then you call me and say, oh yeah, it didn't work out, sorry. Right. And then you call me the next week and go, hey, I got another hot deal, can you do a title search? We're gonna close tomorrow. And then you call me tomorrow and say, oh, well, they had to go to Tijuana for the week, a month, and probably not going to be able to close for another 6 months. And in the meantime, I just spent another $200 and I'm not going to recover. Normally, I recoup the title search fees at the closing. So, you know, I'm trying to be a good guy about it, and but it gets pricey to do these title searches for nothing. Yes.
Well, what do you charge for closing?
My normal rate is $500. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I got to be careful here. I'm not sure what the rules are. I don't know. Have you ever noticed the lawyer things about these are not?
Recorded.
Yeah, these are not actual results. So I got to be careful about what I say. But that's the standard fee for a purchase closing is $500.
And then there's other fees.
Yeah, there's other fees.
Yeah, there's other fees that are outside of my control, like the title search. And the dreaded transfer tax. You know what that is? $370 per thousand. For $1,000 of purchase price.
I will say that Rich was being kind of nice. I feel like he should be meaner. Don't have your attorney run a damn title search and not pay the man for it. Seriously. He's doing work for you. He deserves to get paid for his work. If you close on the house, he gets money. He's good. You know, just do that for him. I know that he's not going to be like, pay me the money. He wants to be Mr. Nice Guy, and he won't say anything to you about it. But I see people do it all the time. Wholesalers specifically, because they put a house under contract, it comes back, and they just kind of dip out. Like, oh, just kidding. I didn't have any equitable interest in the property now, even though that's the point of my contract that I was selling. So, just use your brain if you're going to use people for their services. If it's a realtor and you're working them like a dog and you don't actually use them, you know, take them out to lunch or something. I mean, give them a back stretcher or something. I don't know. But just use your brain. I see people all the time. It obviously bothers me. But just treat people with respect.
I have a follow-up question then.
Yes.
Now, you obviously pay, it sounds like a flat rate to do these, so you must go through some sort of service. Would you prefer that we just do that instead?
It's not a flat rate, but yeah, that's fine. If you want to, I'll give you the name of my abstractor. You can call them up and say, hey, can you do this for me? I'll let them chase it. You just tell them to send it to me with a paid in full bill. I mean, invoice or receipt. That'd be great. That would solve my problem for sure, and it'd probably be faster. Now, I'm not sure how nice they are about it. They may be a little more aggressive in collections than I generally am, but it's fine with me. It works great. All right, any other? Yes.
So with the property I have, where I have two properties under contract at one price, and I may have to sell them to separate people, would I have to double close on that one because the money's coming from two different buyers?
Yeah, you definitely have to double close when they're two different properties.
All right.
It's basically two closings. I mean, unless they're contiguous and you combine them into one.
Yeah, because see, so the contract I have with the seller is for both the properties at one price.
Yeah, I don't care what the contract says. I care what the dirt is doing. If the dirt is one piece of dirt, that's fine. If one's on Main Street and one's on Jones Street, you got to do two closings. And frankly, even if they're right next to each other, if there's owners, two different owners, you got to follow both chains back to make sure you're not getting a problem. So it's generally two closings. If there's two addresses, two TMS numbers, it's generally two closings. Not always, but that's where I would start. I would assume it is unless I find out otherwise. All right.
I know you talked about assignments, but do you also do double closings?
Yeah, sure. The A to B, B to C type closing.
Yeah.
You buy it. Yeah. Okay. That's basically the same thing. It's just you're buying it and then selling it instead of buying it, getting a contract and selling a contract. But yeah, we do double closing.
What about dry closing?
Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, it's, people want to close after work, and of course the money comes to the closing, but no banks are open by the time we're done closings, and nobody gets any money until the next day. A dry closing is when you sign all the paperwork, but no money is exchanged. That happens all the time. All right. I think we're good. Up, one more.
I know you're not a CPA, so do you recommend, or is there one you recommend or one that you use?
No. I'm just thinking about the ones I've used right now. You're on your own on that. I'll tell you what, if you find one, you let me know. Yeah.
So ask Bob.
Yeah, that's right. Ask Bob. Bob's like Google. All right, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, let me. I put some cards on the back table, and my phone number is 803-731-0030. Sure. 731-0030.
Okay, someone left some Dodge Ram keys here. We're going to auction it off.
Mark?